Hogstye.
Hey everybody, welcome to THS. It's the Hogseye with you.
You trying
We
to give
are
us a
back.
cool logo or something? THS.
I mean, we have a cool logo. I
That's
made it
true, we
10
do.
years ago.
Yeah, you did.
It's a rock solid logo. You stick with it. You don't change your awesome ass logo just because people get bored of it and they want to move
I
on.
agree.
Yeah. That is a dig at many teams, not just Washington. I will say.
It's
Uh,
especially a dig at Washington,
it
though.
is a dig at Washington, but I'll throw like the Jaguars in there who ruined their logo. There's a bunch of teams that
I didn't know
that
the Jaguars even changed their logo.
they did and it's not as good. So
This is the difference between Alex and I highlighted in one, like 2 sentences, right?
yes,
I
I
didn't even notice, and he's very bothered by it.
I notice when a team changes like their sock stripe color. That's what I notice. Or
Oh,
I got in
oh,
a hmm?
well, which you commented about a team, either throwback or new jersey or new uniform or whatever, about the fact that you really thought that was sharp and direction they went with it. I forget which team that was. That
That
you
was actually the Jaguars, which is why it was top of mind because they're
was
bringing
it the
back their
Jaguars?
original
Okay,
uniform with
okay,
that more 90s looking Jaguar instead of like the clip
yeah.
art thing they have now. But uh, yes, I am the person who notices those things. That's who I am. I I went to film school. I'm an arts major. I paint. I like color, and I got in a day long argument with one of the hog farmers about the team changing the jersey color. He's convinced it's never changed. I'm like, no, the NFL publishes the jersey colors, like what their Pantone color number is. Here's every change,
What's a
and he still doesn't believe.
Pantone? Well, I don't
Hmm?
even know what Pantone is. What does
It
that mean?
it's like a letter number system that says this is how you make
Uh,
this color red.
and you got into an argument with someone about this?
With one of the hog farmer guys online.
See, I would trust you when it comes to that more than almost anybody else.
Yes, I would agree. And because I
and
also know where to look that
and
up.
and if you get the number for Burgundy, don't be surprised when it looks like it's almost like a deep purple when you first put it
Right.
on. Let it dry. Trust me, it's going to turn out beautiful.
By the
Real
way,
Burgundy has that. Yeah.
since I
Yeah.
interrupted at the beginning of the intro, that's Alex. I'm Steve. That's Dave. We're the hot. This is
Oh,
the hog
hello
side.
everybody.
If you don't know who's who by this point, I don't know what to tell
That's
you.
true. Maybe.
Yeah. None of us sound alike.
Normally I wait to interrupt, but whatever you don't even remember
That's
what you
fine.
said, but it was had to be interrupted right then.
Yeah. How was your guys' Memorial Day weekend? Exactly.
I
You know,
babysat a crazy dog for 4 days.
I mean, that sounds like heaven for you. You
It
love.
was fun. I wasn't complaining. I was bragging.
Yes.
And we had our crazy little grandson most of the weekend. He was
Nice.
all excited because he helped me build up or set up a 12-foot round, 3-foot high pool. Again, all set up, and he was all excited. And of course, him and my wife, as it's filling, decided to put their bathing suits on and get in there while it's filling. So I was like, okay, then that's fine.
Yeah. Hey man,
So, but he loved it.
that's there is nothing wrong with the let's be honest, slightly trashy backyard pool. It's great. There's definitely
uh,
a photo of me somewhere on social media smoking a cigar in an inflatable kiddie pool in my backyard when we first bought our house. So,
right.
you know,
Whatever thrills you guys.
back in my brief cigar smoking days, I don't smoke cigars anymore, but uh, got sick too many times. Um, I did a lot of grilling. I made both a rotisserie chicken and I grilled some ribs
Did you
in
spend
the
eight
same.
hours making bacon again?
No, 8 hours. No. This was just 3 hours rotisserieing a chicken and smoking some ribs.
Couldn't you have just gone to the grocery store and bought a rotisserie chicken and saved 3 hours?
Yeah, but
Not the
this was
same.
like a farm fresh chicken, like literally, farmer's market, like high end chicken. It was nice. It was high quality.
I just
Speaking of
suggest
that,
that time saving.
you were supposed to send me a recipe at the last show.
Oh shoot. Yeah. Let me hunt that down. I'll find that and send it to you.
I'm just all
Uh,
about efficiency. That's all it is.
yeah, yeah. Well, it doesn't help that we do these shows at night and I just fall asleep right after work.
Well, yeah, I hear you on that.
Because
Yeah.
if you guys don't know, Alex mixes this at like 4 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah. I wake up early and I mix it, and then I go to work, and yeah, very often 4 a.m. It's not unusual for me. All right.
And
Well,
yes, we
let's focus
suffered
in.
through severe weather down here. All is well for
Yes,
me.
I did text Steve. Do you have power today?
He wasn't concerned about my safety. He was concerned about the show.
Yeah. Uh,
Well, that's what's important, right?
Absolutely.
I
So, I mean,
mean,
hey,
you live in Texas. It's not like there's roving gangs of vampires like who are going to attack people with no power.
Well, there
Like
might be. I mean, they're called. Well, I'll get myself in trouble if I stop myself in time this time.
there you go. That's
It's rare.
improvement.
It's rare. I know.
Steve. So since you had power, you did spend some time updating the salary cap chart.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
You used your power for good.
I did. Yeah, the powers are good. So, because a few things have happened. Because I told you guys the last time a few weeks ago that they were over the 90-man limit. They have finally gotten down to 90, including the rookies and everything. So the first thing to know is that they signed a couple of these draft picks. They signed the bottom four basically.
Mm-hmm.
Luke McCaffrey, Jordan McGee, Dominic Hampton, and Javante Jean-Baptiste. And so that leaves all of the top guys unsigned, meaning Brandon Coleman, Ben Sinnott, Mike Sanderstill, Johnny Newton, Jaden Daniels. And I had to do kind of my own guesstimate calculations because that's just the nerd I am.
Yes.
About what is left. And I think it's probably a little over 9 million is what probably is the remaining salary cap for these rookies. So anyway, so now they are at about a little over 42 million and change remaining cap space under the rule of 51, which is, if you recall, the offseason rule that allows them to sign 90 players and not bust the salary cap.
Right.
And again, that is without the top, what was it, 5 draft picks. So
yeah.
subtract about 9 million from that or so, and you're talking, when the season starts, barring no more signings, they're going to be in the somewhere between 32 and 35 million probably. So
But
that's
people need to remember, like the number 2 pick, because of how they slot it. He does get a decent sized contract. It's not exorbitant, but
I got that. It's
it's something like $6 million a year to start.
Yeah, so Jaden Daniels is going to get about 6.8 million.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it goes down from there. This, in second round, it's down to 1.8 million. And by the time you get down to the 5th round, it's or the Coleman, it's like a little over $1 million.
Yeah.
But
Basically,
also see those numbers offset by rule of 51 subtractions, which is the back of the napkin calculations I was trying to do, because that's 9 million is just an estimate.
Right.
But
Daniels is going to cost you something. The other guys are pretty modest.
Yes.
So 32 million is a good number. It's almost like they should
almost too much.
Yeah, honestly, you should spend maybe some of it on a tackle, but I believe another one of the free agent tackles was taken off the market today. Or maybe you're going to need to sign another kicker, because there's some stuff going on with the kicker right now. And Brandon McManus, you're bringing shame on the Temple Owls. You know this. This is a problem.
I think you need to break up with him. Alex.
I mean, I don't appreciate what he did.
I don't think you were ever dating him in the first place, so you don't.
No,
it's okay.
I can sense a cold shoulder right here.
All right, so I pulled the petition, so everybody can ignore all the whatever else on social media about this, because I went to the court in Duval County, Florida, and pulled the petition. I have it sitting here in front of me.
Well, so we should give the base background, though, before you go over what's in the petition. The allegation is that while McManus was with the Jacksonville Jaguars, he, on a flight back from London, he harassed the stewardesses, grinded up against one, tried to kiss another, or they might have been the same one. But
you realize I'm just going to go over all that, right?
Yes, you're going to go over it. But this is the allegation. He's being sued by these 2 women in a civil file. Tony Busby filed it. He's the same guy who did the Deshaun Watson suit. So he's a big name when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the reason, by the way, he's involved is that both of The plaintiffs are unnamed because it's a sexual assault. It's a
Right.
sexual case, and the reason Busby's involved is they are both residents of Harris County, according to the petition. That's why because Tony Busby's a Texas attorney.
Right.
Uh,
Although they filed it in Florida.
Yeah, you can get admitted like what's called pro hoc vice, and they have a Florida attorney on the petition here, so that's why he's
Right.
involved. And honestly, these kind of lawsuits, I mean, you don't need to be an expert in state law. I mean, it's all kind of the same.
Right.
Okay, so these two women work for something called Atlas Air Worldwide Holdings, which sounds like a organization that probably provides contract services to United. They're from Houston, so I'm guessing it's probably United flight, but it doesn't say, it doesn't matter. So
Well,
you got
it's a private chartered flight, right? That just
well, it's private, but a lot of times they will charter airlines to do this.
Mhm.
So it's possible. It doesn't say, and again, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But it's possible this is just United Airlines out, because again, they're from Houston, or at least from Harris County. Okay, so you got the basics of it right. There's two women. The first Jane Doe, it alleges that he tried to kiss this woman and then tried to grind up against her twice,
Right.
both times in the aisle way while she was serving. And then the second one, he tried to grind up against her again. And there's some gross allegations in here about his it says he was aroused while he was doing it, with his clothes on. And so they're
Mhm.
alleging that the women could feel that he was aroused. That's the allegation. And it's a pretty basic description in here, I would say. There's not too many extraneous, adjectives and things. It does mention that one of the Jaguars players, quote, looked ashamed of his teammates' behavior, whatever that means. So that's the basics of the story. And by the way, this is a flight to London, incidentally, not back from
Oh,
London.
it was a flight to London.
Yeah, it was September 28th, 2023 is when this happened. So the defendants, by the way, McManus and then the Jacksonville Jaguars team, those are the defendants. So the cause of action here, the first count is against McManus only. It's assault and sexual assault. And that's intentional and knowingly cause physical contact when McManus knew or should have known that the plaintiffs would regard such conduct as offensive, and as approximate results, they suffer damages. Count 2 is intentional infliction of emotional distress, and that's usually a way to rope in exemplary damages with that count. And then the third count is against the Jaguars, which is negligence and gross negligence.
Mm-hmm.
And that the idea there is that they list, seven different examples. I'm not going to read them all, but the gist of what they're saying here is the Jacksonville Jaguars they're responsible for their employees, and they failed to do things like properly train McManus, properly supervise them, create and implement policies and procedures for employees, etc. And so that's how they're roping the Jaguars into this. And gross negligence, again, is a way to get exemplary damages out of it. Exemplary damages actual damages mean the court's going to compensate you for the actual damages that you lost. So you had to go to see a counselor, and a counselor cost you $2,000. Right. And some of this is subjective because, again, emotional distress, you can't really measure it. But what exemplary damages, they'll take the actual damages and multiply it typically by 3 treble. It's usually treble damages, and that's the idea there. Is the punishment because your conduct is so extreme, and so that's what this is. This is brand new. It just got filed last week. Nothing's even happened with this yet. It's just a petition. What I want everybody to remember here is that this is an allegation. The story is ugly. And this, if true, he's a cretin, okay?
Sure.
But you cannot take a petition as true because it has not been proven, hasn't been litigated. We don't have, Brandon McManus has not filed a response to this, and there's been no discovery, and there's been no trial and no jury decision. So you cannot take this as a true statement yet.
Right.
So, but that's the gist of it. It's oddly, he's the only one named in here. This does mention at time in here that other plaintiffs or other players rather were kind of acting out, but they're the only one they name as specifically going to this length, meaning grinding on the women, is McManus. They don't mention another name. There are 0 names in here about McManus, and it also mentions incidentally that the plaintiff smelled marijuana smoke coming from the plane's restrooms. So I thought I'd throw that in, but that's the general gist of it. And so the timeline here is Lord knows what. I mean, these kind of lawsuits could take,
Well,
a couple years.
We all
if
remember
you
the
wanted to.
Deshaun Jackson one seemed to take about a year.
Well, that was like 30 lawsuits. This is one lawsuit.
Sure.
There's a difference.
So understood, but it does take time.
Yeah, and now there's going to be
Watson?
there's a ton of discovery you could do in here. There's 1 million witnesses. Most of the stuff is going to have witnesses. His state of arousal is probably not anything anybody would witness, but all the rest of this, there's 53 players on the plane and a bunch of coaches and stuff and other flight attendants who saw all of this. So
I was going to make a wildly inappropriate joke about that, but we'll say sure.
I'm trying to stay on the up and up here, Alex.
Yes, I know.
Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. Your thoughts?
Well, so I do think it's interesting that according to Busby, he offered to try and settle this beforehand out of court, and it was shot down. He never said was it shot down by the team or McManus or both.
It's not in the petition.
Yeah. Well, I assume that's not usually in the petition.
Normally, what you would do is you would write a letter that says we're going to sue you unless you settle it or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And typically in Texas, those kind of communications are protected from discovery, because it's done in conjunction with the settlement. I'm sure Florida's probably the same. And so it wouldn't necessarily be in here. But I don't know. I mean, the Jaguars certainly wouldn't just settle it. I mean, if McManus might have thought about it, if he really did do all this, he'd probably would have been best to just settle it. But.
Yeah, especially, if it helps, hopefully keeps it away from your wife and other people. And, here's the thing. I think the real question is, aside from that, is it creepy? Yeah. We don't know what's going to be found out. What does the team do? Right, because that's the question that really pertains to us.
What does Washington do? You mean?
Yeah. What does Washington do?
Because the Jaguars absolutely settle it. That's what the Jaguars do.
Right.
Right. But the Jaguars don't. He's not an employee there, so but he is here in Washington, and you don't necessarily want this heat around a kicker of all people.
I mean, I know my opinion, but I mean, Dave, we've talked over you, so give us your thoughts on it.
Well, I think. For one, these players have got to be careful. I mean, whether this is true or not, or even if you do it to earn, even if you do anything that's kind of overly flirtatious or whatever, in this day and age, especially the last 5 years, but you go back at least on 15 years, women are far more empowered now to speak up, come out with assaults that happen against them. It's not like back in the 80s and 90s where they hold on to this thing because they're pressure to hold on to it. They're being being overpowered by men around them or whatever, or even family because they want to save face or whatever it is. It's, especially being a player that's kind of well known. I mean, I know he's a kicker. He's not really, really well known, but still, he has money. He's in the NFL. Put you on more of a spotlight.
For a decade, he's won a Super Bowl.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, so there's a celebrity, there's a fame that follows him that puts him more in the spotlight. Not to say that's going to make these women go after him even more because they can get more money. No, it's just you tend to be a little more brazen about it. And now most women now are at a point where it's like, I really don't care what celebrity level you are, how famous you are. I'm taking action now this time, and I've got people behind me that's going to support me, and unlike it was like a couple of decades ago where women were shamed to even speak about anything of that nature.
It's interesting that
or whatever.
Neither of these women have filed a criminal complaint about this, at least yet, that we know of,
right.
Which is interesting. And for that matter, what would the jurisdiction of such a criminal complaint even be? I mean, that's a good question. But that's odd. A couple things. First, I saw, the resident sports reporter doofus, Mike Florio, had a couple comments. He's wondering if Atlas Air should be a defendant. Well, number one, my guess is that the two Jane Does still work for Atlas and don't particularly want to sue their employer when the clear party at fault is the team. That's number one. And number two, he was wondering about indemnity in this, was wondering if Atlas had to indemnify Jacksonville. No. I would be stunned if the Jaguars had to required Atlas to indemnify them. It's probably the other way around. If there's anything, Atlas probably required the Jaguars to indemnify him, but there may not be any indemnity between either of these parties. But that doesn't really apply to us because that's not going to matter to McManus. If there's indemnities back and forth, that's between Atlas and the Jaguars, and who cares for us? So what I'd like to ask you guys is, what does Washington do about this? Now, my view, as I said before, is this is an unproven allegation. I do not believe in cutting people for unproven allegations. So I think they need to wait before they take any action to determine whether or not any of this is true. If it is true, then he needs to go, and they can always find another kicker. But you can't just cut somebody on the basis of an unsupported petition. And I'm not saying look, I think the Me Too thing is dumb. And the reason isn't because you shouldn't take a woman's complaint seriously. The reason is that you cannot take action on such a complaint until there's been an investigation and facts have been discovered. So that's kind of where we are with this. That's my view.
I think at minimum the team should be a little more proactive and just, if they didn't have plans on bringing in competition for them, hey, guess what? We're bringing competition in for you now, especially there's a couple of UFL kickers, which seems UFL knows how to find kickers apparently more so than the NFL does. And Alex, you know more about that than I do, but I think they need at minimum bring somebody in and go, McManus, this is competition, but it's also a safeguard with us in case this goes to a level, and you're no longer with us, suspended, whatever it is, or something.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think they do have to be very proactive right now. And I mean, you're not wrong. The UFL, obviously, any NFL fan knows that the Cowboys kicker last year came from the UFL and had, I think he missed one kick in the final game against Washington. And that was it. Like he missed one field goal all season.
Yep.
But yeah, the UFL, man, they say what you want, they're a minor league. They can find kickers. They have two guys that kicked over 60 yards this season. A guy for St. Louis, Andre Sinitz, and then a guy for Houston, who by the way, if you're going to bring a guy in, this is who you bring in, J.J. Molson. Mostly just because beer name, and we could have had Heineke, we could have Molson. It would have been really good to have them on the team, and then just find a guy named Bud.
That'd be fun to make fun of him at least.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, so Google tells me that Atlas Airways is in fact some kind of private charter thing. So that's what Atlas is. So but sorry, go ahead.
No. But the UFL probably has 4 guys who would be perfectly fine as NFL kickers. Because let's be honest, kicking doesn't change based off of your league. Like they're kicking at the same size field goals. They're not using like college hash marks or anything weird like that. So it should translate 1-to-1. And most of these kickers in the UFL are kicking their accuracy ratings are in like the high 80s, low 90s. Most of these.
And the problem is they'd have to cut somebody to bring somebody in. That's the problem.
Yeah, I understand. That would be the one issue. I don't know who's the bottom guy on the 90-man roster right now. But
nobody knows.
Yeah. There's got to be like a backup to a backup tight end that we don't want, not really.
I think it'd be defensive linemen, if anything. There's about 1 billion defensive linemen. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have somebody in reserve like that.
You just need to plan ahead for what's going on at this point. Yeah. Because, Steve, let's be realistic. Timeline-wise, this isn't getting resolved before the season and all.
Well, they could. I mean, if they wanted to resolve it, they could settle it by offering enough money.
Sure.
Now, there's a difference between what the Jacksonville Jaguars can do and what Brandon McManus can do. Jacksonville Jaguars can afford to pay anything. And there may be some negligence may be covered by their umbrella
Mhm.
policy. But whatever insurance McManus has or doesn't have, I can promise you that civil sexual assault claims are not covered by it.
That's
So
not
Right.
under your homeowners?
well, I mean, again, whatever policy he could possibly have, that is not covered.
Right.
Even if he has got some professional liability type thing or whatever, which he probably doesn't. So him settling would have to come out of his pocket. And how much money has the kicker made?
Well,
This
I
is
mean,
not John Elway we're talking about here.
no.
Point is, I think it'd be harder for McManus to want to agree to settle it. But on the other hand, if he knows he did this,
Yeah.
and maybe he doesn't, we don't know. But if he knows he did it, he'd probably be wise to try to pay up if he wants to save his career.
By the way,
Right.
I mean, and you obviously know this. He does have a decent contract with Washington, $3.5
Yeah.
million.
Yeah, of course. I mean, how much
Yeah.
of that has he earned yet?
Well, what was his?
You want me to look up his lifetime earnings real
Well,
fast?
I mean, I can look up his lifetime earnings. I don't know what his signing bonus was off the top. Oh, I
I've
found
got
it here on.
that.
It's 1.5. So
Why don't you
it'd
look
be
at my chart that I published and I slave over, Alex?
well, because I was initially looking for his career earnings, which you don't have. Let's be honest.
No, I could add that. Don't tempt me. Okay.
But he's made $27 million in his career. So, he has some money. There's a helicopter flying right over me. I don't know if that's getting picked up on the mic.
It
But-
is.
For a
We can
second-
hear it. It's
For a
yeah,
second,
they're
I thought
chasing
it
the
was
bad
Steve
guy.
playing drum. I thought it was
I'm
Steve
gonna
playing
mute.
drums in a desk or something.
No, I'm too smart for that. Not during a show, at least. So he has money. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if it were me, I would settle it.
And you're obviously not going to settle for a full million if you settle out of court.
Well,
You're gonna,
now he didn't name a. Okay, so this does not name a number. Okay, the number $1 million has been thrown around.
oh,
So
okay.
so what there's a statement in the introduction that says the case seeks damages in excess of $1 million. The reason for that is one of probably two things. One, there may be a jurisdictional limit in the court, but it's a civil district court, so it's probably less than $1 million. There may be some discovery level thing in Florida, maybe that
Mhm.
requires an amount. But this is not a specific damage request in this. It's just saying damages in excess of $1 million for some probably Florida jurisdictional reason. So there's not a number listed in here.
Mhm.
And again, they've pled gross negligence, an intentional infliction of emotional distress, which is exemplary damages, and so you got to treble whatever they get anyway. So you're talking millions and millions of dollars, in the maximum amount that would be awarded.
Yeah, I just can't see him getting the Deshaun Watson number in the end, though. Because I hate to say this, Watson did worse. I don't wanna
There's
compare.
no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Watson had 30 whatever the number was cases, and some of them were really gross. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't even want to go into that. What Watson's case, this case pales in compare. This is Brandon McManus being a total butthead on an airplane,
Right.
which is awful if true. But Watson did was a whole nother
Borderline
level
criminal.
of sexual assault. It
Yeah.
wasn't borderline criminal. It was criminal. They just couldn't prove it.
Right.
This could be criminal too, though. Be clear. You cannot grind against somebody. That is criminal conduct. Okay. It's just what I'm saying is Watson's is way worse, and I don't want to get into the facts there because they're gross. Way worse.
One last question, then we'll move on because
All right.
you guys both are, ex-airmen. With this being an international flight, it still ends up as a U.S. thing because that's where it departed from, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not the best. I mean, I'm not that well versed in the intricacies of criminal activity, over the
Sky law.
mid-Atlantic. Yeah, no, it's not my world,
Yeah.
but I think so. I think it would be. It's either federal law or Florida law, one of the two.
Okay. Yeah, because I just assume it's not like maritime law where you have to
It's not
flag your ship.
No, it's not going to be
Yeah.
maritime law. No.
Yeah. Well, no, but maritime law, like, it's whatever flag you fly is what law.
No, that's not what. No, it's again, it's either going to be federal law or Florida law, one of the two.
right.
I don't know what. I'd have to figure it out, which I'm not.
Space
going
law. We're gonna make new laws.
There you go, space law.
Yeah.
So I would settle it, Brandon.
I
if
would settle too. I don't know what that does for him in terms of, his reputation with the team and such, and like staying
Well,
here.
I mean, look, I mean, cases. I've settled tons of cases.
Right.
You know, you settle cases in every settlement agreement. Express all of them 100% say this is not an admission of guilt. We're doing this for economic reasons. You know, and so he could always rely on that and say, you know, and there's a confidentiality agreement in there. It says we're not going to talk about it. We're killing the story.
Yeah.
To use the Donald Trump lawsuit case, it's catch and kill. I mean, they're killing the story, and that's it. So he could rely on that and say, yeah, I just settled for economic reasons, and it's over. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so let's move on from one controversial kicker to another real quick, because Dave wrote a whole article about Harrison Buckner that, let's say, generated some heat for not necessarily, you know, not the heat Harrison Buckner got, but you got some reactions out of that, Dave.
Yes, I did. But I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have read anything that I wrote or listened to a speech or anything
I
of that
edited your
nature.
article. You know, I've read it.
Yeah, but editing and reading are two different
I
things
read
for me
it. No, I
sometimes.
read
You
it.
know what I mean?
I got it.
Okay. But you know, my article kind of results because I know some aspects people talk about his political aspect he spoke with, you know, with the political leadership and stuff like that, which I did speak on that, both political and religious leaders that he focused on. But the one thing that was the most controversial aspect is in terms of when he spoke to the ladies at the commencement, you know, and of course the one thing that got focused on was most important titles of all, homemaker. So people focused in on homemaker, making him seem like he was being a stereotypical misogynist. You know, we all know a woman's place, this, that, and stuff like that. When you actually follow his quotes and read what he wrote, he used homemaker when he transitioned from talking to the women in the audience, when he went to speak about his wife and how his wife, you know, after marriage came to faith with him, you know, and obviously they came to Christ and so forth. And then later on, he talks about, you know, how she was very rewarded on the fact that she brought kids to, you know, she was a mother, she could be a homemaker and all that stuff. So the way that that was kind of infused in a non-contextual manner, people just blow it up where he's talking to all the women at the commencement. Yeah, you're going to go off, have these great careers, whatever, but ultimately you're going to be a homemaker. That's what you're going to be. That's what some people make it out to be when that's not at all what he was even implying,
I
nor
think
what he said.
your column has a detailed detailed references to the scriptural context of what he was saying, and read that.
Correct.
I'm not versed enough in it to get into that here, but read it if you want to, and a lot of it made sense. My point, I agreed with a lot of what Butker said. In my view, what he was driving at here is that you can do whatever you want, but what you may find most ultimate fulfillment and happiness with is being a homemaker, and that's what he's saying his wife would do. And it must be said, and you said it in your
Right.
column, he is speaking to a private Catholic university,
Correct.
you know, with people
Benedictine, yeah.
who had presumably largely his beliefs. But
Right.
I just emphasize he was not saying women should, you know, get in the kitchen. He was saying, in my view, Christian women may find the most happiness being a homemaker, in addition to whatever
Well,
else you're doing. That's what I got out of it. I totally agree with him.
well, to pull from his quote, what he had said is, you know, for the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now across the stage are still thinking of all the promotions and titles that you are getting in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess, and this is important, I would venture to guess that the majority of you are excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. And when you start going into the scriptural side of it, now granted, I think think of the setting, think of where he's at, like you would mention, and he's speaking to, on the most part, mostly all Christian women. You would venture guess that would be pretty accurate. Being a Catholic university, right? And some of the and some of the honors, or some of the or some of the aspects of being a Christian woman, and when you follow that faith and you commit to that faith, is like when you in the in Proverbs 31, in Proverbs 31 25 through 29, the the strength and dignity of her clothing, and the smiles smiles at her future. She opens her mouth in wisdom, and teaching and kindness in her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and bless her, her husband also, and he praises her, saying, many daughters have done nobly, but you excel them at all. So you can see scripturally, a woman that's a wife and a mother in a household is regarded as being a very, as a true blessing, a true what's the word I'm
Well, it's
looking
called a
for?
mitzvah because you're trying to quote the Old Testament, dude.
Correct. Yes. Sure.
Yeah, stay out of our books, Christians. That's what I'll say as a Jew. Like, focus on your
but
guy. He's fine. You can't interpret our stuff very well because you don't speak Hebrew.
Well, what do you think about this mess, Alex? Since you are now making fun of our religion.
I'm making fun of every religion because I think all religions are foolish and wrong. Go
That's an
back to
opinion.
worshiping Odin. Odin was right. Um, no, okay.
What do you think
so,
about Butker?
well, here's what I'll say. He is young and naive because he's 28. He has not gone through the round of, oh, a bunch of your friends are getting divorced because they're miserable. And, when he gets older, he will find a lot of very unhappy Christian housewives, just like you'll find a lot of very unhappy Jewish housewives, a lot of very unhappy
which
atheist
is very true.
housewives.
You're right about that.
No path is right for everybody. No path is right for most of you. So you're going to have to find your own path. I know plenty of people who are very happy having kids. I know plenty of people who are happy having no kids. I know plenty of people who are happy never being married. I know plenty of people who are happy in open marriages. I know plenty of people who are happy gay, happy straight, happy transgender, happy whatever.
Right.
You will find your path. And it's going to have some pain in it. It's going to have some good moments in it. That's life. Harrison Buckner is a naive, rich guy who's never struggled. He played football. He made millions of dollars. Congratulations on that. That you're one of the 1% on the planet. You don't know how hard it is for somebody who maybe has to work as a parent. Because guess what? Most families, you can't live on one income in this country. I would venture to say 99% of the families can't live on one income anymore in this country, and that's been true my whole lifetime.
99%, but certainly it's a lot. I mean, yeah, we disagree, and that's fine, and that's what it's all about. See, this is where you can have a reasonable discussion for stuff like this, and I
also
I think
humor.
Well, yeah, I'm not worshiping Odin. Just no matter what, I'm not worshiping Odin.
You of all people would actually probably dig Odin, man.
I know who Odin is. I'm saying I'm not going to worship him. There's a difference. But yeah, I mean, I just think when taken in context, he's just espousing beliefs that a lot of people who were there believe.
Sure.
And I think that's important to note. And I just emphasize that he wasn't saying anybody had to do anything. He was just saying, in his view, in his opinion, this is what happiness is. And maybe it is naive. I mean, that's like your point, Alex, is he's naive. I don't agree with you, but I mean, that's an opinion. I think the whole thing's blown way dramatically out of proportion in terms of the media reaction to it.
And I think that's an important note that you had too, is the fact that the environment and the setting is in. If he had taken this and gone to like Berkeley or like to Duke University,
or in his locker room. Let's be honest.
But if he had taken a setting outside of that, then everything that you have said, Alex, I'd probably agree 100%, because you know what? You're talking about a university that's diverse in religious beliefs. you're talking about a university that has non-believers. They don't even have conviction in the faith at all. And
Mhm.
you have many walks of life. A speech like that, no, you just go on, talk about the realities of the world and going on with your career, blah blah blah, all the normal stuff, what
Well,
you copy
and
and
this is my
paste. But when
problem,
you
and this is why you generally don't get commencement speakers who are young dudes. Uh,
right,
he doesn't know the ways of the world yet. I mean, look, I thought I knew the ways of the world at 28. I'm sure we all did. But life
sure,
doesn't punch
yeah.
you in the face until, or it doesn't stop punching you in the face, honestly.
I was gonna say it hasn't stopped punching yet. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, 30-year-old me would have thought 28-year-old me was a dumbass. 40-year-old me thinks both of them are dumbasses. That's how it goes.
And the 50-year-old me didn't even realize, can't even figure out how I was able to, how my 25-year-old so was able to tie his own shoe.
Right. Exactly. So I don't know.
So
Like that, my biggest gripe is hire. If you're gonna have commencement speakers, get somebody better than an NFL kicker. Like, Duke had
Yeah,
Jerry
but
Seinfeld speak.
I mean,
That.
I get it, and I
Yeah.
generally agree with that. I mean, in this case, he made, I thought, a great speech in terms of what was fitting for the setting and fitting for the audience. And I thought he did well. And again, personally, I agree with a lot of what he said.
now, it also to know too, he also did get a rounding of applause. And he had
He
most of the women there actually did,
Sure.
take
Well,
to what
that's
he
his
had said
audience.
and liked it and everything. So it's just,
And
I
I will
mean, but
also say
it's
that the Harrison Butker jerseys are sold out in women's sizes, at least as of 4 or 5 days ago when I checked. So
Yeah,
I
a
did.
lot of husbands buying them for their wives, I'm sure.
Well, and the men's jersey was the number
Yeah.
one jersey on the Chiefs website.
No, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is Ben? So this is a small college, right? Where even was it?
I don't
Kansas?
know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know.
I have it.
I had to look it up just real quick. Okay, yeah, it's in Kansas. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So it's just a school of, a few
It's a
thousand.
private Christian university, small
Yeah.
private Christian university.
Catholic.
And the last
To
thing I'll
be
say on
specific.
Yeah,
this
that's
is, sorry,
yeah, I'm sorry. I just gonna say real quick because that's why on the most part of what you said, Alex, I kind of agree with almost everything you say. If it wasn't for the fact it wasn't in this setting, but I get what you're
Sure.
saying, though, especially the naive aspect of it. He's still young, life still hasn't even hit him fully, or whatever, and of course he has the privilege of the money he makes and the career he has. I get all that, but it's just that particular setting to have a speech that's dominated by a belief in his faith. Now, granted, he could have left out the politics aspect of it. He probably could have left that one alone, and because that's one complaint I got when I talked to somebody at work about that, which I get that. That's fair. You don't need to bring, because there's so much to talk about church and state. Leave them separate. Quit bringing them together, and then he brings it together, but that's a whole other conversation there, though.
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
whole other can of worms.
and
We're
we need
not
to
going to
move
get
on.
into.
We need to move on. But the last thing I'll say is, for those of you whining about the First Amendment, because I saw some of that, this is not a First Amendment issue, okay? For the 1,000th millionth time, the First Amendment protects against government censorship. The First Amendment does not protect you from being criticized for your public speech. It protects you from the government stopping you from talking, okay? This is not a
Right.
First Amendment. He was in a private setting. He made a public speech. People have the right to criticize him for it. It
Now,
has nothing to do with the First Amendment.
the interesting thing is, from my understanding of legally, the only thing that he might actually be in trouble for is the political stuff, because depending on your tax status as a religious university,
He's not an employee of the university.
No, that's true. So he's probably safe there.
Yeah.
Or he would always be safe. The university, in
And
theory,
it's also
could,
it's a private. Yeah, I mean, it's a private university. I mean, it's not. There's not a prohibition against making any political speech whatsoever. Okay, I mean, you'd have to go pretty far down the road. I mean, think about all the things that these universities have done with regard to,
Well, it's not the university aspect. It's the religion. It's the whole separate, that if you file as a church, you're not supposed to get political.
I get it, but we're not
Yeah.
talking about one speech.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But again, McManus isn't even an employee, so.
No. No, but there have been incidents at actual churches with
Nobody
things like
that I've ever known has lost a tax status on the basis of speech.
All right.
But
Well,
let's
do we
move
want to
on.
move on?
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about. Oh, how much time do we have? I've lost track of how much time.
We are at
We're at
about
45 minutes.
45 minutes. Yep.
Okay. Let's speed round. Talking about some stuff. All right. The team hired another scout. He was the former head of Bledsoe. If you don't know what Bledsoe is, you probably aren't an NFL fan. But it's the oldest scouting agency in the sport. And that this guy was Dustin Reagan. He was the head of that for 7 years. There was a new team poll that came out that said that the name is still not popular. Shockingly.
What? Say it ain't
Yes.
so.
No way.
This was in the Post. 58% of Commanders fans don't like the name Commanders. 16%, I don't know who the heck those people are. Actually, I do know one. I know one guy who now likes it.
What is his age?
He's about my age. He's actually maybe 43, a little older.
Huh, that surprises me.
Yeah. He's kind of I think he's older than me, but he was like a band drummer for a long time. So you know how like when you've had like that kind of lifestyle, like your age gets weird. You know what I mean?
Age gets weird.
Well, like he might be in his 40s, but he doesn't act like he's in his 40s. If that makes sense.
Is he a drug addict?
No. But he was once in a touring band. So
This is Bill Ward from Black Sabbath, isn't it?
it's not Bill Ward from Black Sabbath. I don't know Bill Ward
Just
from Black
asking.
Sabbath. He might be in his 40s. He acts like he's in his 20s. So that's why I'm saying it's kind of a wild card on the age. But yeah, I was shocked that I wasn't shocked that 16% like it, actually. I was shocked that there's such a large undecided gap between 60-20.
Hey, I wasn't so. What was it? 54% or 57% didn't like the name, or hated didn't like the name.
54% of locals don't. 58 of Commanders fans
I
don't.
think they have a problem, and I know we saw Mrs. Harris. I
Harris,
can't remember
yeah.
her name. Was it Marjorie?
Yeah, Marge
Marjorie.
Harris.
Made some quote that basically saying we have other things to think about, and it seems fine to me for now, or something like that.
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't. I think they have a problem when you have the team, maybe not this ownership group, has made a major marketing change, and more than half of your local fan base either hates it or doesn't like it. You have a problem. And I will say this: it didn't really occur to me until today. I don't know if I can name another team beyond maybe the Cleveland Indians / Guardians that have changed their name in the same market without leaving town. That does not happen very much.
Happens a lot in basketball, technically. Wizards, Bobcats, Pelicans.
In football, I can't think of one.
No, I can't think of it in football ever, and I can't even think of it in baseball.
But
other
there's
than
certainly
the Guardians.
3 or 4 in basketball. Yeah.
Yeah, basketball.
But
is
also,
weird like
by
that.
the way, it's not like the Celtics and the Lakers and the Bulls were doing this. Okay, the Washington Redskins had a long history dating back to 1932.
Right.
You don't just dump a history like that and expect it to go over well.
Right.
No.
Immediately.
Well,
Yeah.
I wonder if part of ownership's game plan is well, obviously get the roster going so they can win all that. Well, I mean, obviously all that, but Jaden Daniels, I think, is the kind of the key to this. And the reason why I say that is that if he grows, he matures, he succeeds, he becomes our franchise quarterback. Okay, so what's happening with the brand? Are people starting to like it, buy the brand, start accepting the brand, and now all of a sudden the name Commanders is becoming more popular?
Well,
right?
obviously,
Okay, we're going to leave it alone.
clearly that's the plan.
Sure.
It has to, and I'll say this: like the NFL rules allow a new owner to change the name, but I don't know what it is. I haven't looked, but there's going to be some time limit for that. And then after
5 years.
No, that is no.
That's
So
uniforms.
there is a 5-year limit. You can't. The team generally can't change a name. It has to every 5 years, okay? But what I'm saying is there's an exception to that says a new owner can come in and change the name. But I don't.
Okay.
There's going to be a time limit to when the owner can do that. I don't know what it is. So,
Yeah.
but if they pass that time limit, then they'd have to wait out the 5 years to change it. And so, reason why I mention all that is what Dave said is right. The plan, it seems to me, and I wrote about this in a recent column, I think. The plan seems to me to, if the team improves, I think they're going to assume the bulk of at least the younger fans will come along for the ride. And people who are older, they don't really care about much anyway.
Right.
Right.
We're
all gonna die anyway soon.
Or at least stop watching. And they have a whole new generation. So it sounds to me like they're going to stick with it, which is awful and horrible to me. But they don't care about my opinion, clearly.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the numbers. It's going to be interesting to see, like, in a year, if these numbers change at all.
I do think they have a marketing problem.
They absolutely have a marketing problem. But
you're limited on how you can market Commanders anyway. I don't care what anyone says. You're very limited on how you can do that.
It's a stupid name.
And it was a terrible rollout. Like, it
was
wasn't
total
just
amateur hour is what it was.
Yeah. Like everything Dan Snyder touched.
And what's that name of that horrible mascot, the giant pig? What is his name?
Tubby. Right?
Commander something.
Major Tuddy. That's it.
Major Tuddy. That's it.
That is the worst mascot I have ever seen.
I don't mind the mascot because I get what they're trying to do with the callback to the Hogs. It's the stupidest freaking name.
It is horrible.
Yeah. I don't get mad about it because, again, mascots are for 5-year-olds. So, like, I can get past it.
They've ruined my team.
They did.
I'm never going to forgive them for any of them for this.
Yeah.
I mean, Dan Snyder ruined more of it, but I mean, that's a whole nother. We've done hours and hours and hundreds of hours.
He ruined everything.
Right.
Yeah. He did. All right. Let's do our position group breakdown and finish the show up because it's been a weird show.
It has been a lot. We've covered a lot today.
It's been a heavy show, folks. I'm sorry. Maybe we should have done the defensive ends first. All right. So yeah, position group breakdown. I wrote it up this week. It's about defensive ends. Lot of changes in that defensive end room when you really look at it, guys. The thing that is mind-blowing to me is, so we all knew a lot of change was coming because they traded Young and Sweat. I didn't think that in the beginning of the season they were also going to get rid of the two guys who came in to replace Young and Sweat mid-season in Casey Tuhill and James Smith-Williams. Like, if I went and did a breakdown of what percentage of play they got rid of, 80% of the snaps. Guys who took 80% of the snaps last year are gone this year. So, like, that's pretty heavy when you look at it that way. So, looking at the team for this year, they held on to KJ Henry, who was the 5th round pick last season. He didn't start for the first half of the season. He didn't even play. But he was decent when you looked at him on the field. He only ended up with 1.5 sacks, but he did flash some potential. I know some fans are pretty high on him. F.A. Obada's back. Somehow he just keeps sticking around even though Ron's gone. Then they kept two guys who, they played last year. You probably didn't even notice. Jalen Harris and Andre Jones Jr., who, he played a little bit more. He played more special teams than anything else.
Some people call him a linebacker. I've got him listed as D-line on our chart, but
yeah, he's one of those tweener types.
Right.
And look, tweener types are something that I think Dan Quinn likes because he does love to run that unbalanced offense.
Part of it, he's a tweener, partly because he didn't play much, so I don't know. We really know where he actually belongs.
Well, and if you brought him in to really play special teams, then
right. That's his position, his real actual position.
Right. And by the way, he played 171 plays on defense and I think 200 on special teams, something like that. I didn't write it down, but he only had 1 tackle all season. So
more tackle than the 3 of us got.
That's true. That's true. All right. So obviously the team was very active in free agency. I think that was smart of them. When you look back on it, they knew they had too many needs. They needed to fill this defensive end room via free agency, not in the draft. They weren't going to get a high-end defensive end in the draft in all likelihood. So they brought in Dorrance Armstrong, who was with Quinn in Dallas. it's awful just saying Dallas. Um, so he was with Quinn in Dallas. He is kind of, I think and we'll talk about what they're doing here in a bit, actually. So they bring him in. They brought in Dante Fowler Jr., also with Dan Quinn in Dallas, and Cleveland Farrell, who, what I find interesting, both Farrell and Fowler are basically the Chase Young model when he went to San Francisco. Adam Peters has a type for finding guys who were once top 5 picks and have failed at their first stop, and he brings them in to try and have them be backups or rotational pieces at defensive end, which is an interesting thing when you look at it. That's something he's done it several times now.
Both of them were first-round picks.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Both of them were in the top 5. And Adam Peters did the same thing when he grabbed Chase Young from Washington last season. So he's got a type. It's a weird type to have, but that's
it
his
is
type.
a weird type to have. First-round busts.
Yeah.
That's his
But
type.
you're not bringing him in to be your star. You're bringing him in to just be like a high-end backup. Which
Isn't it fair to say, this group, that there's no chance that Dorrance Armstrong doesn't start? He's going to start.
He's definitely the starter of these 3.
He's got a $33 million contract.
Yep.
He's got a
Multi-year
cap hit
deal
of almost $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to start. And so then, absent like one of these comparatively unknown people really coming out of nowhere,
mm-hmm.
I think the other pass rusher is going to be Cleveland Farrell or Dante Fowler, some combination of one of those two guys. Because again, they're cap hits. They're both over $3 million.
Right, but they're both on 1-year deals. These are proven deals. And when you look at the historic volume that these guys have played, they're all rotational guys. None of these guys are going to play 90% of your downs. They're going to play about half the snaps each game. So I think you're going to see a very heavy rotation of these 3. When I look at Fowler, so Fowler's the interesting one to me because I think he fits what Dan Quinn liked to do very much, in that he's kind of a linebacker, kind of a defensive end. He's played both throughout his career in terms of his rushing style. So he can do the stand-up, maybe, if they're doing that 5-2 look that they're talking about again, since they overdrafted a defensive tackle, he would make a lot of sense as that linebacker and hybrid character on the outside. We'll see if that's how he's used, but I could easily see that kind of being Quinn's vision. I will mention also they did pick up Javonte Jean-Baptiste out of Notre Dame in the 7th round. 7th round pick, who knows? But he's a good athlete type. Like he needs to get stronger, but like his speed and athletic scores overall are pretty positive. And he played at Ohio State for a bunch of years and was just at Notre Dame his last season. So, and we all know Ohio State just all they do is find 5-star athletes.
He's actually 24, so.
He is also 24. He's older. Yeah.
He's older.
I think he's
now
probably older than any of the other guys we kept other than Obata.
Probably, yeah.
Now, as far as this whole group, I had to pull up I was surprised I was able to find it pretty quick, actually. I know when we first signed Armstrong, the one thing that I had read before, and this is from Sports Illustrated, was he only played 42% of the snaps for the Cowboys and still managed to have 7.5 sacks and 12 quarterback hits and 7 tackles for losses. He's a very intriguing player. He's a player that fits in Quinn's system and scheme very, very well, and he knows obviously how to use them. He's never had the opportunity to be a full-time starter, and every time he's been very, very effective. So can that translate him being a full-time starter? If it can, we could very well have that tier 2 edge rusher. He's not gonna be that elite guy. He's not gonna be your Nick Bosa or anything like that. He's not gonna be to that level. But he's a guy that where you can have, with the 2 tackles you have in Payne and Allen already, they're going to take some attention off of them, and you have them on one side, and you have a rotation of, the others on the other side, especially KJ Henry on passing downs. I think you have a potential for an effective pass rush, depending upon how he pans out. So I'm pretty intrigued by Armstrong. He's the one I'm kind of anxious or excited to watch the most out of the whole group.
I would hope so. He's the only one making a lot of money. So
Yeah.
better
Could be
play.
a good reason why too. So
I would venture to guess because historically he's like when he was with Dallas every year he played about 500 snaps a season, so that's about half your snaps.
yeah,
At his age, he's right in like that. He's going to hit his prime this year, probably another 2-3 years of his NFL career. Just law of averages, 27 through 30 is your prime years, right?
right.
I don't think he's going to start every snap or play every snap. Obviously, he's just not that kind of guy. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing about 2/3 of the downs for the team, and then subbed out the rest of the time. I would think that's a reasonable goal for him. And
Probably.
if he does that, and you look at his other numbers and extrapolate, he could be a 10-sack guy.
Possibly. I mean, you're being optimistic, but that's fine. I think they have to hope for that because somebody has to do it.
Right. I think that's what they're seeing. Farrell's the one that I'm the most down on, honestly. Just because he was the, probably biggest. He was a Chase Young-sized disappointment for the Raiders. So,
he was also overdrafted, I believe, too. Wasn't
he
that
was
was one of the big criticisms with that.
Yes.
That was a Mayock
was Chase Young. Ultimately,
yes.
as we've seen.
I wonder who was talking about that when he was first drafted.
Yeah,
Me.
and I I don't remember anybody talking about that. Everyone loved him.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, so look, I think this is still a group that's going to be in transition going forward. They'll probably only keep 4 guys, would be my guess. Maybe a 5th on the practice squad, probably. So if I'm going to be bold and guess, obviously you're going to keep your 3 big free agents. I think KJ Henry still wins it out, though. I really liked what we saw from him last year.
Because there's really only going to be one of these like backup types.
Right.
Are going to be on the active roster because Armstrong, Farrell, Fowler, probably all of them stay, and so now you're talking about one of KJ Henry, Jean Baptiste, Andre Jones. Maybe if they call him a linebacker, maybe he stays.
Yeah.
F.A. Obata, these guys like Norrell Pollard. I guess he's more of a defensive lineman. F.A. Obata, I mean, one of them at most will stay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I could definitely see KJ Henry staying. I could see F.A. Obata finding a way of beating out either Fowler or Farrell, anyways, because I think either one of them are definitely past any kind of production prime that they've had. Anyway, they even had a prime.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I'm with you. I think that look, they're here. Like I said, they're here on prove-it deals. It's not the end of the world if you lose them. I'm just not a big F.A. Obata guy. I think he missed all last season. He was on IR.
True.
And he's getting up there in player terms. So I wouldn't be shocked if this is like he has training camp to prove something. But
that goes for most of these players.
True. All right, so that wraps up the defensive end group. And John Baptiste is probably on the on the practice squad.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah. 7th round pick, safe bet. All right, that should wrap up the show. I'm sorry if it was so heavy-handed for everybody.
We're normally not that heavy-handed, but it was a couple important stories, we thought to cover. So
right.
Yes.
You can suffer through one show of no weird jokes by us.
I made weird jokes.
You did make weird. I suppressed my weirdest joke.
One thing you can always count on: I'll make a weird joke. It's
yes, that's true.
No matter how awkward the topic, how serious the topic, I can get one in. So.
That is true.
All right, guys. Hope you all have a good week, and we will talk to you on next episode, which is in June. It's already June. Wow.
It is
June.
June.
Yep. All right, guys.
Crazy.
See you then.
All right. Later.